This is a great segue to our special guest of the day. He is the superintendent of the Mesa Public Schools. How about a big round of applause for Mr. Dr. Michael Cowan. How are you? Welcome. Good to have you here.
I'm trying to figure out what the connection is with the Olympics.
Well, follow that.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to figure out what the connection is between me and the Olympics, but it's good.
Well, yeah, no, it's good. You're the champion of the Mesa Public School System. How's that?
There you go, gold medal.
Yeah, there you go. Well, why don't you talk a little bit? I know that you've got a big bond event coming up.
We do.
In the Olympic terminology there. Tell us about that and why everybody should vote for it.
Excellent. I'll be glad to. And I will tell you, I can't tell you why to vote for it. I can just give you information.
Sure.
So let me just share information with you. You know, over the last several years, as Arizona's experienced its economic challenge, one of the things that's happened is there's been a significant decline in funding to education. One of those key areas has been Mesa Public Schools has lost funding equivalent to about $105 to $150 million to sustain our facilities. And with 87 schools and over 100 sites across our 212 square miles of our district, we're at a situation where many of our buildings are aging out. We have some buildings that are as old as 60, over 22 of our buildings are over 42 years old, and we're experiencing some challenges as these buildings continue to age, and we're not receiving any funding to be able to maintain and keep up these buildings at the levels that we like them to stay at. So the governing board has called for a $230 million bond that will be on the November election. The bond is really focused on two areas. One is to, of course, take care of facilities. For instance, this last year we had 2 separate schools where the sewer lines were so old that they actually collapsed. We had to go into the foundation and replace the sewer lines. Big challenge. The other half is about $67 million to really pull Mesa Public Schools into the 21st century as it relates to the use of technology for our students. We recognize that our economy has changed dramatically. It will continue to change, and our job is to prepare children for an economy that doesn't really even exist yet. And so we need to engage our students with the use of technology at a much higher level so that they are successful, they're familiar with it. It's difficult right now because our kids, as they come on our campuses, they have to shut down their technology because there isn't the sources and resources for them to be able to use that to help augment their learning. So that's really the focus of this bond. It's twofold. You know, we have about 64,000 students. I'll be able to tell you more in the next couple of days. We started school on Wednesday and had a great success. Yeah, a lot of happy moms out here and dads. We started school, and one of the things we really want our students to be able to do is to use technology with the support and guidance of great teachers to help them really prepare for their contributions back to Mesa and to our economy.
So what are the changes that you see happening in the Mesa Public School System?
You know, there's always change going on in education, and some of it is federally designed, some of it's state designed, some of it's designed by our students. As a matter of fact, on Wednesday, first day of school, there was a principal sitting in his office, and a little kindergartner came in just about after lunch. He had his backpack on, and he's chopped in. He said, "Hey, principal, I just want you to know, I came, I learned, I went to resource, I had lunch, I'm done, I'm out, I'm over." And he turned around and started walking out of the office.
Awesome.
And the principal said, "Wait a minute, you're a full-day kindergarten student. You need to come back here." So he raced back, got the mom on the phone. The boy and the mom had a little conference about, "Son, you're going to go to school all day, like the big kids. This is a great opportunity for you." The little guy turned around and went back to class. At the end of the school day, the principal came back, or the student came back to the principal's office and said, "Okay, I made it. I'm done. Can I go home now?" And the principal said, "Yeah, you can go home now." So the principal and the student got in the car and drove home. This was actually the principal's son. And he was like, "I'm out. I'm done." You know, and so a lot of the changes that come along often are driven by our students. There are some serious changes that our community really needs to understand, and I think our community will embrace. The nation is undergoing a dynamic change as it relates to curriculum, the stuff that's taught in our classrooms. And they have, state by state, through the Council of Governors and the chief school state officers, have developed what's referred to as the Common Core Standards. The Common Core Standards are state-designed, nationally comparative from state to state to state, and they're internationally benchmarked. So what we're doing right now is we're in the process of rolling out considerably more rigorous academic standards for all of our students. This is a good thing. Now, with that comes significant challenges, because what we're doing is we're expecting a whole bunch more of kindergarten students than we've ever expected in the past. We're expecting a whole bunch more of 12th graders as they exit our system than we've ever expected in the past. And so with that comes a little bit of growing pains. You know, it's a little challenging sometimes to sit down with not so much students, but with faculty and say, hey, we're changing things. We're making things a lot different. It's going to be significantly different in what we teach, how we teach, and our expectations of all of our students. Mesa's had a great reputation of success and achievement in academics and athletics and the arts and in career and technical education in partnership with EVIT. We're going to be ramping that up dramatically over the next year and a half to implement this new curriculum. It's an exciting time in education.
I love the kid. He only wanted to go to school till noon.
He was done. Kindergartner was done.
I did that in college.
Did you?
So I was on the 6-year plan, but that's a whole nother story. Well, good for you. Now, besides that kid that you talked about, does Mesa have any extraordinary students that we ought to kind of be on the lookout for?
You know, we have some incredible students. We have a little 5th grader right now. He just came home from a European African tour with his parents, who are both Harvard-trained and educated engineers. This little guy spends half the day with us and the other half of the day at Arizona State University taking Calculus 3. So we have some incredibly academically precocious kids. Then another big celebration for us is Bria Larson. If you watch the swimming competition, Bria is one of our Mesa kids. She started her high school career at Westwood. Her family moved to Idaho, had a revelation that this isn't exactly the best place for swimming, and came back and enrolled in Mesa High, Mountain View High School, graduated from Mountain View, and then you saw her in the Olympics.
Wow.
So it was really exciting to get our students and our faculty rallied around and cheering on Bria. She didn't quite get to that medal contender area, but it was fun to see her compete.
That's very cool. How old is the kid that's taken classes at ASU?
He is about 9.5 years old.
Wow.
If you can imagine that.
He's taking Calc 3 at ASU.
Yep. He went to our high schools as a 3rd and 4th grader and is now over in the advanced studies program over at ASU in the afternoons and comes back to us for music and art and PE and a couple of other classes. Just incredibly bright child.
And the other thing, he's probably one of the few kids in his class sober at ASU. So that's kind of an advantage, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, we make sure he follows certain student guidelines, absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, that's very cool. By the way, now this, it'd be cool if we could get that kid to come in here maybe someday for Mesa Morning Live.
I gave him a call to see if he could come with me, and Sally and I were working on that, but he was out on his world tour at the time.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you know, on some safari in Africa. So
that happens to a lot of our guests. We have the juggling tour almost kept Dave from being here today. Well, that's cool. Well, good for you. Now, if you had a crystal ball here, what do you see as the future of the Mesa Public Schools? Are you encouraged by what's coming down the road?
I am encouraged. You know, there are a lot of good things happening with education, and we are changing paradigms in how we educate our children. And that's a good thing, really, to prepare them for this 21st century experience. We're into the 2nd decade of that century, so we really need to be ramping up considerably, and we haven't had the resources to be able to do that. That's one of the benefits of the bond. Of course, the bond is always associated with property tax, and so we're working to make sure that if the community supports this bond, that we retire old debt so that we more or less maintain a consistency of tax expectation for the community. We recognize there's some value there. But as we look down the road at the crystal ball of education, I think what we're going to find is there's going to be higher levels of accountability, which is good. But at the same time, there's going to be teachers and students and families that raise to those expectations. And our children will be excelling and exceeding and achieving at higher levels than we've ever seen before. And it's really building on a legacy of greatness from this community. You know, this community, before it was even established, as the pioneers came into this area, they built an adobe schoolhouse and got their kids started in education. And since that time, there's been a huge respect for what's done in public education in our community. And you see that as we expand out to our post-secondary experiences under the direction of Mayor Smith. He's had some great direction to our community. But with that great respect comes a great expect. And we're doing everything we can to raise to new levels of expectation internally and from our community as well.
That's good. Just out of curiosity, how many people here are products of the Mesa Public School system? Round of applause so we
Got
can...
a whole bunch of them.
Wow, very cool. Well, there's nothing more important than educating our youth, and it's so important. I wish I'd have gone to the Mesa. I went to one of the goodest public schools back in Missouri.
The Show Me State.
The Show Me
There
State,
you go.
exactly. You know what? I bet we've got a couple of questions from anybody in our live studio audience. Anybody have any questions for?
This isn't the time to ask why your daughter wasn't selected for the cheerleading squad.
He'd be more than happy
I'll
to
talk
stick
with you
around
offline
afterwards.
on that one.
Any questions? Yes, I see a hand in the back.
Yes, I was wondering, how does the all-inclusion fit into the rigorous standards expected of our students?
I'm sorry, how does the...
How does the all-inclusion fit into the rigorous
Got it.
standards expected of our students?
Got it.
Maybe if you could repeat the question.
Yeah.
So,
How does the all-inclusion expectations, and I'll share with you what that means, fit in with the higher expectations for all students? You know, we've got simultaneous reform streams coming at public education right now from a variety of different sources. I talked to you a little bit about the Common Core standards. That will be big, and you'll hear a lot about that in the near future. Another big initiative moving forward in Mesa schools and across the country is referred to inclusion. And inclusion is taking special needs students and as much as possible incorporating them into the regular classroom so they are with their age-like peers, so they can make sure that they are raising up in expectations academically, socially, behaviorally as well. So what we're finding now is we're moving into an environment where government and school system and community is saying, raise expectations for all your kids, and at the same time, we're bringing in special education students into the classroom so that they benefit from those expectations as well. And the challenge, or actually the neat part of it, is watching not only our regular ed students continue to achieve, but these wonderful, beautiful special ed children are really moving considerably forward as they're infused into the regular classroom environment. You know, years and years ago, it used to be, oh, it's those kids over at that school, or those kids over in that program. And across the country, the movement is to now bring these populations together so that everybody benefits from a very diverse student population.
that's great. Good question. Any other questions? I see one right here.
You're talking about the all-inclusion. So how are you training teachers to be able to differentiate the needs of all the students in the class?
That's an important piece. You know, as you can imagine, when you walk into a classroom of kids and you've got 26, 30 kids in your classroom, you can imagine you're not really teaching to a classroom of 30 kids. You're really teaching to 30 classrooms of one, because it's the focus in Mesa schools that the needs of the student, individualized, the student come first. And we're having to differentiate instruction to make sure that we are really meeting the needs of individual students, helping the accelerated continue to advance, like our little precocious fifth grader, that main population of students, as well as those students who may be struggling. So we have a series of professional development experiences for our teachers to help them understand what's going on with the Common Core standards, as well as helping them understand how to really diversify their teaching to meet the needs. Now, with a special needs student in your class, that support then is also augmented by special ed teachers who are also into the classrooms, serving as an adjunct faculty or an additional teacher in that classroom as time permits, to make sure that additional educational connections are made between the student, the population, and what the teacher's trying to teach.
Great. Well, I know you're a busy man. I want to thank you. You can't get out of here without telling us a little bit something about yourself that we don't know. Anything?
Okay. Well, you know, I grew up in Southern California, and for years I worked at Disneyland. And yes, I did. And I was a cruise operator on the Jungle Cruise. So if you ever want to know the entire narrative, which is 21 pages long that you're required to memorize along with your own jokes.
And you still know that.
I can give that to you over time. It's a little rusty, but I can probably pull it back a little bit. Great time. As a cast member at Disney, it was wonderful.
Oh, wow, that is awesome. Well, good for you. The only other question I have for you, do you have a flashlight on you right now?
No flash drive or flashlight on me, although I do have my iPad.
Oh, perfect, beautiful.
So we're good there.
Well, I thank you. I know you're a busy man. I thank you so much for stopping off. Ladies and gentlemen, how about a nice round of applause for Dr. Michael Cowan.
Thank you.